Do you ever ask yourself, why do I have to pay VAT anyways? Or get the sense that this whole system is unfair? That VAT is hurting your business cash flows? Maybe you've even Googled how to avoid paying VAT. Well then, you've landed on the right video, because today I'll be taking you through some of these questions and show you how big corporates think about VAT. And by the end, you'll know exactly how to approach VAT and make it work for your business. Let's get into it. Okay, firstly, let's talk a little bit about the frustrations and the questions. In my practice, I've come across a number of these questions from my clients, and I'll be sitting there and I really want to help them understand how to think about VAT in the way big businesses think about VAT. And to help us move things along, I've broken this video up into a few sections, namely 1, what is VAT? 2, what does it mean to be a VAT vendor? 3, who pays VAT? And ultimately number 4, how big businesses make VAT feel fair. Right then, what is VAT exactly? VAT stands for value added tax, but you already knew that. Another way to describe VAT is a consumption tax, meaning it's a tax on the consumer. Already from that definition, we can see something interesting, which is the consumer pays, not the business. Now, at this stage, you might be asking, but how come I pay VAT to SARS? Well, the reason you pay VAT to SARS is because you are an agent. You, as the VAT vendor, signed up to do this job when you applied to be a VAT vendor. And ultimately, that's what it means to be a VAT vendor. You simply collect the VAT being paid by your customers, and you send that money over to SARS once every 2 months or so. But hang on, you might say, why doesn't SARS just do this job themselves? And the answer to that is, there's a lot fewer shops and businesses to deal with than there are end consumers. So to make the collection process easier and more complete, it's a lot better for SARS to put the burden on you as a business rather than having to chase after 60 to 70 million people. It would be a huge undertaking and require so many resources to police the entire population for accuracy of submitted returns that it probably wouldn't be worth it. You can imagine SARS coming after someone for incorrectly submitting their VAT on a bag of groceries for 800 Rand from Checkers. The VAT on that would come to a paltry 104 Rand, and they'd have to do this for every purchase made. It's much easier and much cheaper for a country with a limited taxpayer base to use businesses as the agents for collecting VAT. But there's still the question of who pays the VAT, or more aptly, when or how did the customer pay this VAT? I'm sure you see where I'm going with this. The customer paid VAT when you charged them for the goods and services. If you already knew this stuff, great, but I need to make this very clear because I have seen people claim they never charge VAT as a VAT vendor, and while it's true they never had a line item, when you are a VAT vendor, you are charging VAT irrespective of whether you put VAT on your invoice or not. You don't have a choice, right? But you know what? I'm just thinking that maybe the American sales tax system makes more sense for business owners. Because in America, the price you see on the sticker isn't the final price you pay. So you'll pick up something for $100 and you'll leave having paid $110, let's say. And oftentimes those of us who aren't used to that tend to be frustrated by it. But actually for the business owner over there, they wouldn't ever be confused. It's an interesting thought, but I still prefer our system where the price on the sticker is the final price. Nothing more, nothing less. But it does mean that people who aren't familiar with how that works in South Africa behind the scenes can get into business and not fully understand their responsibilities. Because ideally, as a business owner, you would know that the price you put on the sticker is made up of money you keep, but also the money that you collect on behalf of SARS. And to help us understand how the numbers work, I've put up the VAT fraction on the screen. You can see that the fraction is 15% divided by 115%. The numerator is the VAT that you collected on behalf of SARS, which is going up to 15.5% in May 2025, by the way. Okay, and then the denominator is your sales price at 100% plus the VAT that the VAT vendor needs to charge on all their sales. This means that about 13% of what your customer pays doesn't actually belong to you. You can see now that it really is the customer that pays for VAT and you were just collecting. I think by now you understand how big businesses think about VAT. They know and recognize that what they collect from the customer isn't all theirs. So the secret to why they succeed and why the VAT question isn't a problem to them is simply that they set a sales price that makes sure they are profitable, and then they add VAT on top. As an example, if you were selling widgets and the profitable sales price for them is 100 Rand, they won't charge the customer 100 Rand. They'll charge the customer 100 Rand plus 15%, so 115 Rand. I can't stress enough how often I have seen this misunderstanding of how VAT interacts with a business's sales price. And as I alluded to before, when you don't take into account the VAT when setting a sales price, what you're effectively doing is you're setting a lower sales price than you might think, resulting in a sales price of 86 Rand and the other 14 Rand is meant for SARS. Like, I've literally seen a situation where a business didn't understand this, so they never charged VAT for years. And when SARS came in, they took their sales from the bank statement because they also didn't have accounting or bookkeeping and said, yeah, we'll have some of that, thank you. And this can really devastate cash flow because this business never planned around paying over this VAT. They didn't have the money on hand. Yes, they had claimed VAT when they purchased the raw material to make this widget, but there's certain things that you can't claim VAT on. For example, you can't claim VAT on salaries, and those can be a huge part of your expenses. Consider this example, and let's assume the company was able to buy their materials for 50 Rand including VAT, right? They would have been able to claim 6 Rand 50. So their materials cost is actually 43 Rand 50, right? Now, if they also had salaries cost of, let's say, 40 Rand, that would mean their total expense to make the item is 83 Rand 50 because they can't claim salaries. If you assume they don't know that they had to account for VAT from their customer and price this widget at 100 Rand, then their profit would be only 2 Rand 50. Versus if they had priced appropriately, they could have gotten a profit of 13 Rand 50. That is a huge difference. And the worst part is, most of the time, these businesses get away with it until they don't, and SARS demands multiple years of this VAT that they hadn't been paying. So now the business is likely to shut down. This stuff is really not a joke. So really what I want you to take away from this video is, number one, you are an agent collecting VAT on behalf of SARS. Number two, the VAT paid by the customer was never yours to keep. Number three, you need to take VAT into account when pricing your products. That last point is so crucial. I don't want you to go years not doing this and then suddenly SARS expects you to pay over the VAT you've collected for every sale you've ever made. And that's all I have for you today. If you appreciated this video, you learned something, give it a like, consider subscribing, and be a good friend by sharing this with your business contacts. It could save their business and save them a lot of pain in the future. Right, thanks for watching. I've been Mtambo, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.